job on learning how to set up Gmail and Airtable email notifications. They are super, super helpful, and we use them all of the time in our consulting practice. Before setting them up, it's really important to talk to your team about whether these notifications are actually useful. The last thing you want to do is inundate your team with emails that you think are useful, but they do not care about. Or you could get into a situation where you're sending way too many emails and no one even wants to look at any of these notifications anymore. That's also not a helpful situation. So that begs the question, well, how can we send the least amount of emails possible to make sure that people will actually read them or will find them useful? I want to use this task notification or task assignment notification as our example. If you're an organization that has very few tasks and they're really large tasks, then this totally makes sense because you would want the assignee to know when they've been assigned a large task. In other situations, it might not make so much sense. For example, if you are a social media marketing agency, you probably have so many tasks that you don't need to inundate all of your employees with, because someone could get assigned 10 different things when you're planning out your content calendar, and you don't necessarily need to send them 10 different emails. Airtable does have a solution for that, thankfully. There's another type of email automation you can set up that is a time-based trigger. That means you can send an email every morning at 8 a.m. or every week on a Friday or every month on the first day of the month. This is super helpful because it reduces the amount of emails you have, and you're sending more of a daily, weekly, or monthly digest instead of inundating people with way too many notifications about every little thing that has been changed. Now let's create a time-based automation. I'm going to start a new automation. And we'll call this one weekly tasks that the team needs to work on. So maybe weekly email and then dash tasks that the team needs to work on. So now we'll add a trigger. And the trigger is going to be at a scheduled time. Next, you're going to select your interval type. I'm going to select weeks. And you can specify how frequently you want to receive this email. And I would like to receive it once a week. And only on a Monday. And perhaps I'll want to email my team on Monday morning to say, here are the tasks that we have to work on, or here are the tasks that are currently outstanding. When you test the trigger itself, so I'm not filming on Monday right now, but it's going to tell me the next Monday that this automation will trigger. And for us right now, that's going to be August 22nd. Next, I'm going to add an action. Even though we're sending a weekly digest this time, we're not actually going to start by sending that email right away, because in the email we'll want to include a list of records. So first, we actually have to know what that list of records is. Our action this time is going to be find records. And with this find step, I'm going to find all of the ongoing records or all the incomplete records. Again, whatever it is that you need. And it's going to find the tasks from the tasks table. You can then select what you want to search for records based on. In this case, I'm just going to search based on condition. And my condition is going to be that the status is not complete. Previously, we used task status. We built two task status fields. I know it's a little bit confusing right now. We have a linked field for task status and a single select field, but primarily for this demonstration, and I think for the rest of it, we're going to just use the single select field. We'll try to delete that linked field shortly. So I only want to send out the tasks that have not been completed in that email. And to test the action, I can see pretty much all of my tasks. Because of that, I'm just going to change some of my tasks to complete. I'm going to mark a few more records as completed. And now if we test our action again, I'm going to get fewer records. You can see that here. All right, so I don't necessarily need fewer records, but I just wanted to show you how updating the status or updating the status relevant to the condition will change your results. After we're comfortable with the results that the trigger is grabbing, then we can move on to create our action. Once you're happy with the test records that you've grabbed, then we can move on to the next step, which is to create that email automation. We're going to add an action, and you can send an email. And in this scenario, I'm imagining that multiple people on the team will receive this email because there's going to be tasks relevant for each person in the email itself. So I'm going to get the emails of my different team members. I'll paste both of the emails in the to field. And the subject line will be outstanding tasks to work on this week. I'm going to add in the subject line to something related to outstanding tasks to work on this week. And then the email itself could be very simple because it's just a notification to the internal team. Next, I want to include all of the records that we found in our find record step earlier. Once again, click on the plus button. Then you want to look at use data from. So initially, we've always been using data from the trigger step, but this time we actually want to use data from the find records step. And same thing here, you can either insert a list or a grid. Because I'm going to have multiple tasks, I'm going to insert a grid. And here you can include fields related to those tasks. I'm going to include the project name and the task name. The assignee, the start date, and the due date. And then I'm going to insert the grid of records. Now I'm going to generate a preview. Great, and now here's our preview. You can certainly run this as configured. And you can already see that it's sent to both of the Cherry test emails. And now when we look here, we can see the different tasks we need to work on, what projects they belong to, and who is the assignee. You can also see that we're missing an assignee in one of these tasks. So either the team or the team lead can go ahead and assign those to an assignee. Once again, this is a kind of simpler illustration of how you can send a weekly or daily digest email. I think the most helpful situation I've seen this used is maybe when there's a new project, or maybe when an organization has lots of new projects coming. The daily digest emails are really helpful because they allow you to see a summary of your data or your updates based on a specific time period that you've defined. A lot of the really helpful automations that we see with our clients is, for example, a daily or weekly digest of all of the new projects that came in. And that way, the project managers and the team is aware of what's coming down the pipeline, and it really helps them to communicate, because now you're not always relying on a weekly standing meeting for everybody to know what's going on within the team, because some people might be sick that day or other people might be on vacation. If you sent out a weekly email every single week, then everyone at least has a basic level of understanding for what's coming down the pipeline. So definitely play around with these daily digest emails or monthly digest emails. They are really helpful for a lot of our clients' workflows. That daily digest email might have been a complicated one to start with, so I encourage you to take a little more time to think about it. But we can start with something a little bit simpler if you are looking for some of those quick wins. A lot of our processes, whether it's in a project management setting or in a retail setting or in construction, in pretty much any industry, there are going to be deadlines or important dates. So for those important dates, we can certainly send ourselves and our teams a calendar invite. In our projects table, let's define a couple of different types of projects. So perhaps there are kind of monthly ongoing projects, perhaps they're SEO related, perhaps they are email marketing related, and then another type of projects could be an event. So maybe the coffee shop will have a open mic night. Maybe the guitar shop will have a demo day for new guitars that they've got in stock. So there are lots of different opportunities for you to plan projects around events. And perhaps some of those events you'll want to make sure your staff has got them on their calendars. So let's add a project for the coffee shop to have a open mic night. We can set the project status to new. And we can add a type of project, which could be event or non-event. So our open mic night would be the event project, and everything else would be a non-event for now. So our project can have a start date. That could be the date we start planning for the project, and it could have a go live date or a event date. Let's set the event date to October 1st. After we've got our event date, we can go ahead and build that automation. And the trigger is going to be when an event project is created and there is an event date populated. So for my first condition, I'm going to say project type is event. And the second condition is that the event date is not empty. And we're going to find a record and see if any records met our conditions. So we do have a record. Oh, it looks like I was typing data in the wrong place, so I'm just going to replace that. Here is our open mic night. This is our event and non-event. Okay, coming back to our automation, I'm going to test our trigger again. And this time I should see the open mic night. I'm going to add an action. This time I'm going to create an event. You need to attach this automation to your Google Calendar account. I've got a couple of accounts already connected. It's very similar to connecting your Gmail account. So if you don't have one connected yet, click this button called Connect New Google Account. It's going to ask you to sign in and approve the privacy policy, and then you can send out calendar invites using your calendar. It looks like I've got quite a few calendars, so I'm just going to pick one of my personal calendars. So this is the lead follow-up calendar. And instead of specifying the start and end time, we actually want to bring it in from our data. So you're going to click on dynamic instead of static. And the input field is going to be our event date. So normally you would actually have the event start time and the event end time. I forgot to set that up, so we can go ahead and add a couple of columns. All right, and because I'm human and I make mistakes, we're going to create our event start and event end fields. These fields also require time. Well, you can include a time, or if it's a multi-day event, you can just put in the start date and the end date without the time. That's completely fine. In my case, I include the time in both the event start and the event end. And now we can say the open mic night starts at 6 p.m. on October 1st. And it will end at 10 p.m. So now that we've adjusted our data, we'll want to go back to that trigger step and make sure we re-pull that record. And we keep doing that because anytime you update the record, your automation trigger is a little bit out of date from a couple minutes ago. So here we're going to map our field again for the start time. And we'll also change the end time to dynamic as well and map the end time. If your event is an all-day event, you can also choose this option for all-day event. With the title, again, you don't need to type this out manually. You can pull in data from the record itself. If you wanted to include a description, you certainly can, perhaps add in a description column inside of your Airtable and then pull that text right into this description box. You can also add information around the location, and you can also add attendees. This is going to be an internal calendar invite to the team. I'm just going to add in the emails to our internal team members. Sometimes you get errors, and that's fine. We're going to try and reconnect our Google Calendar again. I know it's been a while since I've connected mine, and yeah, we'll just see if that fixes it. Okay, so I reconnected my Google Calendar, and we'll see if this one works. So reconnecting our Google Calendar didn't fix it. Now we can keep looking through why it might be broken. In the calendar earlier, I selected lead follow-up, but what I realized after looking around is this isn't actually one of my calendars. It might be a calendar that I follow. It could be a calendar that was synced into my calendar at one point from another test. So this calendar is actually no longer valid. And what I need to select is my own calendar. And earlier it was saying I don't have writer access to this calendar. That just means I don't own that calendar. But I know for sure I own the calendar associated with my email. So that's just something that you should be aware of. Be careful about which calendar you're selecting to create the event. And now that we've tested the action, we should have gotten a calendar invite. Now as I look at my calendar, I can see that there's an invite for me from 6 to 9 p.m. for this Open Mic Night event. And I can click on yes. So that's how you send a calendar invite. You can create a record that has a start and end time, or at least just one date associated with it if it's a full day event. And then you can set up a trigger to listen for that record when it's created or when it's ready to be sent as a calendar invite. And then you can set up a Google Calendar action to send out that calendar invite. Thanks for sticking around for this automation section of our course. It's always really fun to set up automations, make them work, and see the immediate impact of either creating a record, sending an email notification, or sending a calendar invite. It's the sort of thing that doesn't take a lot of time to set up and will save you lots of time in the long run. I hope you will keep exploring automations, reading up on different support articles, and getting inspiration from forums or other places on the internet so that you can think of other automations you can build. We're also going to have supplemental videos in this course. So for some of the more complicated automations, we can definitely get your feedback on what you want to watch, and then we'll keep recording content so that eventually there's going to be more complex pieces of automations and of integrations that you can learn to set up on your own. Thanks for investing in your own knowledge base. I'm Cherry Yang, the founder of Claribase. We're going to be releasing our flagship course, Airtable Mastery, for free. In the course, you can find over 100 videos on topics like design, integration, automations, and interfaces. It's perfect for the Airtable champion who wants to build their database right the first time. You can sign up for the course at the link down below.